Welcome to Thought Experiment Called Life. This is where unconventional thinkers and multi-passionate makers share their journey of creating meaningful lives, built on growth, creativity, and the courage to live on their own terms. I'm Greta, a musician, a martial artist, an herbalist, and a fellow traveler through this mystery we call life. Every other Tuesday, I bring you real conversations with rule breakers and path forgers. Subscribe on Substack for more resources, mindset, tools, and more.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me and just
God,
allowing me to be a part of this. Are you kidding?
Please. I'm so excited. We'll talk about how we know each other and everything. But this podcast, really, I wanted to create a space where people could hear stories from people who live unconventional lives and are living it in a way that is very meaningful and fulfilling to them. I think we see so many stories, at least I see a lot of stories of people being like, on that path of I'm living in alignment, but it's like it's so big and sensational in a way that I find it to be a little overwhelming sometimes when I hear people tell stories like I did this thing and then I have this multi-million-dollar business and blah, blah, blah. And I think it's wonderful. I think that though, I want to highlight stories where it's like, there's more to it than the size of whatever's happening, the kind of sensational part of it. I think that sharing the actual meaningful part of life where our lives really live in the details of the mindfulness of what we actually get to do on a day-to-day basis. And when those things are fulfilling, then in my opinion, I feel like that's at least my goal for my life is to make sure that the fabric that I'm weaving is also just as meaningful as the thing that I'm building,
Absolutely.
And I want to have more stories for that and people who are multi-passionate and are creative. And, of course, I talk about mindset a lot. I talk about a lot about when we are the kind of person who looks at the world a little differently like that, there are different ways that we can interact with the world so that, we are able to navigate it a little better. There's more space for people like us, and there's more dialogue about it and understanding of it. And this is just another kind of fold of that, I think. So of course I want to talk to you about it.
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
Yeah, we've been on this path for a while. Obviously, how long we've known each other for?
About 13, 15 years, maybe, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's around there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's crazy. That's crazy.
I know, right? It's been about 13 or 15 years. Yeah, because Prana is about 12 and we met each other a year or two prior to that.
Right.
Yeah. And it was instant, like, I know you, girl.
I know you. I know. I was like, are we doing that before?
Are we related? What's going on?
I know, short girls. I was like, she's short like me. That does not happen often. I'm like, yay, hi. Can see you eye to eye. It's nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to introduce you a bit, Jacque Maldonado, I was gonna say the sorceress of the Prana house. the head goddess in charge. Tell everyone about yourself a little bit.
So I am the creatrix of the Prana House, which is an herbal apothecary and holistic wellness shop in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And through that is supporting people with herbal medicine in the forms of either wellness care for themselves or even for spiritual uses or practices. And a part of that also is a community that also caters to holistic wellness and spiritual growth and practices. So it's supporting people on their transitions, whatever they may be experiencing in their life, and being able to support them with tools to walk their path in the most authentic way. And also in a realignment of feeling whole in body, mind, and soul. So whatever that is to them, wherever they're feeling a disconnection, wherever they're feeling, that they want to acquire more knowledge or more experience in, we can support them with some of the tools and practices that are a part of what I do at Prana House, not just myself, but other practitioners in walking that path and walking that road. So, yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And I mean, for anybody listening right now, if you're not driving or whatever, I would definitely recommend go to Instagram or your website right now and just look at the Prana House, because you're just going to want to go there, because it's like the most mystical, magical Harry Potter land of all time.
It's an experience for sure.
Yeah, it's an experience. That was my favorite part. So obviously we met. I was getting my master's in herbalism. You were like, I'm opening up the shop in Westchester, which is where I was living and is from. And I was like, well, then I remember being like, I really need to reach out to her. I feel like I should work with her and like connect for this, especially during this chapter. And came on to manage things and help with social media and all of that. And one of my favorite, and also to practice, that was my, besides two favorite things. There are many favorite things. One is watching people's faces when they would walk in and they were like, wow, what is this place? And just the childlike wonder and the spark of inspiration you could see, just come over their faces, and also seeing them look at the plant wall, like the herb wall, is something really special to see somebody really just looking at it. And there's like a knowing, but obviously they don't maybe know, a lot of people don't know what to do with the herbs, but there's a familiarity, there's a bond. It's like an old friend. You've seen an old friend and you're like, I think I knew you once before. And then being able to help those people get to know the plants, get to know the crystals, get to know the tools, and help them discover their path like that. Just, I mean, thank you for having me as a part of the Prana House when it was still little baby Prana. And it was, I mean, it's one of my, there's like little pillars in my life that mark like my education and my development, and both spiritual and educational, specifically with actually the plants in general. But it's something that transformed me completely. And also, I would definitely say in terms of the I'm just jumping all over the place right now, but the feminine side of things, the feminine healing side of things, is something I would love to touch on, because I really feel like that probably made one of the bigger impacts personally in the way that I've navigated everything moving forward. Yeah.
Thank you for being a part of it. I loved sharing that space with you and sharing that time with you. I think it was healing for me in a lot of ways, and also having that connection of sisterhood there. It was so healing, especially since Prana House was a creation that came out of a period of great difficulty and challenge for me, and in a time of healing as well. And being able to claim my path, but alongside a fellow sister, that felt so inspiring and so just validating all at the same time. And being able to be there to support each other in those transitions was so great. And there was several others that were a part of that, right? And we had this coven that was there, right? And just being able to grow. And I completely love the fact that even though Prana House, was this idea that formulated right out of my mind and heart, but it was the continuation of it also being a part of the mind and the heart of others as well, right? That the creation of a safe space and a sanctuary where people can come in and feel that they could experience that awe with no judgment, and to be able to learn and be educated in a way that allow them to continue to grow that inspiration, and you being a big part of that. I'm forever grateful for that time period of our lives, and just the continued action of that and movement in the world, even now that we're separate, having it continue to be a work that is still going. So just
same. I mean, same. I know everyone's like, all right, you guys, but same.
I love this woman so much.
I love you. No, but same. I think it's, I'm going to circle back to when you started, but real quick to go on this thing, because I think it really is one of the most beautiful things that came from this. And I think, we were just kind of chatting before, like, you've done such an incredible job of creating a place that, you're like head creatrix, but you're just like creating a container where, since I've been there, and I was telling you, like, since I've been there, I've seen so many of these beautiful souls, and I could just, like, I can feel, I can tell they're like, I can tell they're carrying that torch of this container, of this vibe of really tuning into your path and like whoever's path, ustedes, their path and their vision, and the wonderment of it, and the safe space, and then being able to also understand, how, like, to fall in love with the plants and the medicine, the real medicine that is there.
Yeah.
And then the community portion of it. So you've just done such an amazing job of modeling something that I think, first of all, it taught me so much about how to model that moving forward. And that was kind of like, when I had to go and follow my path, like, I was very committed to taking everything that I had learned, that we had done, and everything that I had learned from you, to take that forward in whatever kind of community that I would build from there. And specifically with women, I went to all girls Catholic school growing up, and middle school was a nightmare, and high school was not much better. And most girls, most girls that I meet have had a similar, it didn't matter if it was all girls Catholic, it just happens to be a certain special brand of that. But, there's, in our culture, it's very promoted and widely shared that, women aren't nice to other women, and blah, 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 blah. Mm. And I grew up also in martial arts gyms, which was all dudes. So, like, then, of course, it was easier there because nobody did all the things that the girls would do. And I was like, oh, this is easier. And I think this is a shared experience for a lot of women.
Yeah.
And it was, us at the Prana House, it was the first time that I felt like I actually had, like, sisters as my friends. Like, I had women who, even if we didn't, like, it wasn't like we were very real with each other. It wasn't like it was always like, oh, sunshine and whatever. Yeah. If there were things that came up, there was good communication. There was good reflection on things on all of our parts, and, like, we were able to support each other. And maybe not, if somebody was taking a path in life and you're like, oh God, I hope you're okay. It was just like, being able to hold that space for that person and be able to be there for them. And I've seen that just continue with those women in general, that we shared that. But it's something, even when when I'm teaching specifically the girls jiu-jitsu, and we have, girls coming, like, some girls have stayed, some girls have come and gone, and jiu-jitsu, all practices are like that. So it kind of morphs and shifts, but it's something that I really make a point to model that as well, to make sure that, because it's tough to come into that room and in general. And then, if you've had a bad experience with a bunch of ladies, and now you're, like, having to do something very physical with them, and you may feel weird in your body, you may feel weird about being there, you may have just all kinds of things going on. And so to really, I've brought that mindset of really being supportive, and really just focusing on the fact that when you're working with somebody else, first of all, your journey through life, but in martial arts, in the sense, is yours. It's not a team sport, but you do have a community. It's a community sport, but not like a team sport necessarily. Yeah. And then also to champion the things that you're seeing and it could be all the men and the women, but specifically for the women, I've seen them do a really, really beautiful job at cheering each other on, where normally it would, I've seen in the past, at least, it would not be that vibe. And so much of it too is to the credit of the women who come. Like, you would love them so much. They're so wonderful. And I think it's really important. I do see it in other communities, but I do still see, very, like, pitting the women against each other. And I don't know if it's a rite of passage from, like, I don't know if that's just kind of how it goes when you grow up, that, that's something that is more likely to happen at that time. But I really am happy that at least I've seen for proof that there are so many places and so many pockets of this supportive community, specifically for women, specifically because we need each other, and we need each other to be like, I see you, I see what you're going through. I also have gone through this. I'm here if you just need to not feel like you're screwing it up, or you're doing it wrong, or things are too hard, blah, 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 whatever. All the things that we kind of give ourselves a hard time about, and being general, of course, but it's general for a reason, so.
I think, I think a big part of that is, there is a paradigm where women were pitted against each other, whereas this idea of we're in competition with each other constantly, and we need to feed on that competition and kind of create almost this in some ways patriarchal mindset around it, right? And being a person that also grew up in places where it was with that mindset of girls being pitted against each other. But I also have moved so much in my lifetime. I was always the outcast. I was always oftentimes the new person in a group. And so it was always having to kind of find my way into whoever was going to be a part of my circle and creating that circle for myself. Culturally, I always felt like I was also the outlier, as well as being a first generation born US citizen and kind of learning what my path was going to be. But always kind of being on the outskirts. We've talked about this too. I always feel like I'm that person on the edge of the woods. And, for so long I was yearning of like, well, where will I find my community? How can I find my community? And wanting to create that space, wanting to create a space where people felt safe, where people felt that they could drop their armor and they could feel safe in being able to explore what, their identity of self was in connection to their spiritual path and their practices in wellness, body, mind, and soul, and having that place of no judgment, right? Wherever you've come from, wherever your past has taken you, it doesn't matter in this way, shape, or form right here, right now, because we're always growing. We're constantly shifting. We're constantly creating something new and different, but we just want to feel safe as to have that option to explore those things. And through my own challenges in life, I've always felt that I've been an individual that has wanted to make people feel comfortable, to make them feel safe, because I know a lot of times, especially when I was younger, I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel understood. And I never liked that whole mindset of, well, let's pit each other against each other, or I'm better than you. And it's like, no, we can all come into a space where we all have our own strengths, and how can we explore those strengths and make each other even better because of that? And root each other on, right? And give ourselves the opportunity to explore like that greatness that we all have within us and that power that we all have within us, but unfortunately sometimes gets shuttered and gets squashed down because of the judgment of certain individuals. And I'm more like, let's break free of that. Let's break free of those chains that bind us, because we can be so much more powerful than we can ever imagine. And I think through those phases of death that I've gone through myself, it's allowed for that rebirth to happen in a space where I'm like, no, I want to be someone who gives that space to individuals to feel in empowerment of their own path, because I remember what it felt like to be disempowered myself and to move through that death and have to kind of climb and find that space for myself. And if I can create a space where people don't have to do it alone, then that's great. And let's continue to do that. And I'm glad that there's branches and pockets of that, right? Because there are. And I think also too, as I started to create that and shift that, I automatically also started to attract that. The woman that also thought similarly, who wanted to uplift, who wanted to empower, who wanted to show love, who wanted to be love for others as well. I think that just automatically started to cultivate that. And you cultivate that in your MMA gym, and it's beautiful to see. And I hope that more and more of that cultivates over time, because we're powerful.
We're powerful.
We're powerful.
I love you touch on the empowerment thing. I want to share with you. I thought this was pretty cool. So I interviewed my friend Ryan Hoover 2 weeks ago or so, who is one of my old friends back from Krav, and he has an organization called Fit to Fight. He's like massive on YouTube. He's done an amazing job. He and his wife, they kill it. I love it. Wonderful, wonderful conversation. And something that they talked a lot about, and I hear this a lot in the self-defense circles, is with the word empowerment. Mm-hmm. And how there's like a rub, because it's like nobody can empower you. That's something that you have to do. And I love Ryan said, empowerment is something that happens when no one's watching. Or like, and and I love it with what you're saying, because it's kind of like, the the quest, your spirit quest is yours.
Yes.
No one can do your
Yes.
spirit quest for you.
Absolutely.
No one can do the dark night of the soul for you. And though having that community though really helps you with your spirit quest. Because a lot of times we all have a quest. We all have some kind of journey into our soul, some invitations that come knocking in maybe not the most fun ways. And it's like to be able to navigate that in a way that is I want to say moving forward, but sometimes you don't move forward. Sometimes, a lot of times you're just spiraling, but just different spirals, not like spiraling down, but the cycles, you cycle,
yes.
right?
The rhythms, the wheel of the year.
Exactly. Yeah. So sometimes we spiral, it's like spiral, but, as to continue that rhythm, it really is helpful to have, examples and models around proof that other people have gone through something like that. The knowledge that you can go somewhere and just be. I always say, my therapist is always like, stop being a human doing and be a human being. And at the Prana, at Prana, it's like you can go and be. And so when you have, workshops or any of the tools, it's like to be able to come in and it's really about your soul and your path. It's like, what do you need? What do you need right now? So I think, I just wanted to share that with you about the empowerment thing. Cause I think that it goes well. We hear empowerment a lot when it's in reference to women, because there's been a lot of disempowering things that have happened.
Yes.
And to just make the decision and commitment to yourself that you are going to call back your power is a huge first step.
Yeah. I believe that's also, there's so much, it's not even just, being disempowered, but I believe that with our society today, with all of the demands and all of the expectations of how we're expected to show up in our everyday responsibilities, sometimes there can be an overwhelm that happens there. And from that overwhelm response, right, there is those feelings of disempowerment that happen, that disconnection that happens with self. And when we also talk about empowerment, it's also a reclaiming of yourself as well, right? It's a reclaiming of who you are, what are all the aspects of you, your own personal sovereignty. And I think that oftentimes with so much external factors that are going on in the world, there is this disconnection that happens, and this idea of like, question of, well, where am I going? Who am I? How can I even move through this world in the way that I want to continue completely authentically and empowered as self? And it's a reminder that, yes, we can move through this space and time in a completely authentic, completely sovereign state of our own personal wants, desires, dreams, and beliefs, and feel empowered by that. And that's a part of that too, is creating that belief and that realignment of, well, what is it that I want? Because so oftentimes when we think about what do I want, there is this label of selfishness that is put on that, right? And there is a level of selfishness, but it's a level of selfishness that is meant to be looked at. Right? Because it is about the self. We're here to live and walk our own purpose in this world. And so often with all of these external factors is trying to disconnect us from that part of who self actually is. And when we come back to those places of the natural realms of working with herbs, with working with crystals, which are all things that were put here on this earth for us, right? And we have that safe space where we can land and we can just breathe and we can feel again, right? Oftentimes I meet people that don't even know what that is, how they're feeling, because they're so disconnected from the idea of self and body and soul and connecting the mind with self. And it's this place where we come back to the inward parts of ourselves, and we really get to explore, and we get to be in those spaces and re-empower ourselves from there too.
Yeah. What would you, so like, I definitely, if somebody's listening and they're like, yes, I am feeling so disconnected right now. Like I remember one time I felt connected. This is not it. What are things that you, like, if you were to like, all right, let's try these things to start, just to get a little bit of, and like, what are your favorites?
My favorites for sure. I'm a huge advocate and I preach this all the time to everybody. It's just like brain dumping and journaling, right? People always think that journaling has to be, there's certain questions that you have to ask yourselves when you're doing a journal. And it's like, no, just brain dump your thoughts, right? They're this aspect of ourselves that's up here. There is no tangible thing that we can make sense of it, right? Because there's so many things that are going on through the ether up here that kind of grasping onto the firm's aspects of those can be daunting at times. And so I say, when we journal, when we just brain dump, when we have like word vomit that comes out from our brain to our hand and onto something tangible that is piece of paper, I think that we then also have the ability to start to pull that apart and say, what is my reality and what is my non-reality? What is this thing that is actually overwhelming me, that when I see this in a tangible way of looking at it, doesn't seem as overwhelming anymore? Or, oh, now I have a little bit more clarity on this because as I wrote it out, I can kind of decipher what the hidden meaning behind all of that is. So I say that's one start. Moments of silence and meditation, absolutely. One of my favorite expressions, and I don't even remember where I heard this at this point anymore, but someone asks, what's the difference between meditation and prayer? And I say, from what I've learned is meditation is listening to God, to the universe, to whoever it is that you believe in, right? Whoever your guidance is, it's actually listening. We're not there to shut down our brain, to, stop the noise. But no, we start to tune in. We're literally tuning in. We're starting to change the dial a little bit so that we can start to listen a little bit better and a little bit more clearly, versus prayer is talking to God, the universe, whoever it is, right? And there's a difference. There's a difference in that. And so meditation is absolutely 100% important. Whether you do that seated in a room with your incense on your cushion and your, megahertz music surrounding you, or you do it outside in nature, which is one of my favorite ways to do it, is walking and feeling the rhythm of the wind moving through your skin and feeling that ancient wind and movement of the power of air, which is our breath, right? To feel the ground and the foundation beneath our feet, to feel that movement of our blood and that natural, life force movement just moving through you. I think those are important things to start that connection, right? Where we move the thoughts from our mind that are completely filtered in that chaos state or trying to be filtered through chaos, to have something tangible to look at it, and then having those moments where we start to activate that listening aspect of self, right? Because I think oftentimes that is a big thing, is the tuning in and the listening. Again, our external environment is telling us not to listen. It actually is creating a container where we're like not going to be listening. And meditation allows us to start to change that channel to quieter, to a more sensory type of response. And we get to then explore, well, what am I actually feeling? Where is this fear coming from? Where is this insecurity coming from? Where is this anger or resentment or whatever emotion is going on that is quote unquote negative, right? Or unsettling? Where is it coming from? And also, where are my joys? Where's my inspiration? Where are my dreams, right? How do we have room to actually sit in that and explore all of those things? So those are two beginning aspects that I really like to do. Yeah.
I love them. I love them. I think it's the War of Art. And I know we used to do it Art of War. And then there's
that's a book.
Art of War. Yeah. There's like one about actual war, and then there's one about art. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Which podcast am I doing? No, Stephen Princefield, I think. So yeah, like the automatic writing, I think that's such a good point. And to kind of like extrapolate on it a little bit too, because I always think about, I guess, how we hear these things, because I'll be like, I have to do it. And I know there's a lot of people like me. It's like, well, I have to do it right. I got to make sure this journal thing is right. So something that I actually used to do in high school in our writing class that they would have us just do writing. You would have the loose leaf paper, and then you would just write for 10 minutes, and you were not allowed to pick up your pen. Like, you weren't allowed to stop. So you literally, if you couldn't think of what to say, you would just be like, blah, what you would write down, not
blah, 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 blah,
blah, blah, blah. I don't have any thoughts in my head. My brain's empty. You know, you would just keep going for like 10 minutes. Not everyone has 10 minutes to do that.
Right.
I've been I journaled a lot throughout my life, and then recently, or like for a while, I didn't. And I would go back and forth. And then in May, I guess, I started doing it every day. And it's, you know, it's one of those things where you're like, and I am like that with a lot of my practices. I'm like, I haven't done that in forever. And then I do it like religiously for 3 years straight. But the thing that I've done for me to help me do it with when I'm like, I have to do it right. Because I would always be like, I have to make sure I'm writing something. Spelling is not really a thing. I'm like scribbling where like I'm just letting it. I'm like, bleh, let it out, and it might just be really short. I might even be like, I can't even really write today because I gotta go do these things. But like, hello, universe. I feel like whatever, and you know, whatever things need to come out. And it really makes a difference to just kind of like, you're sort of documenting things. You're sort of just saying whatever comes out. Maybe you had some dreams. Like I do it first thing in the morning. I sit with the kitties and I have coffee and I just journal, whatever. I do like having questions at times, although questions, of course, put some kind of expectation and my doing brain kicks on. So I try to just be in the being brain and just let it be like blah, blah, blah. And then with the meditation part of it, like, and you were saying like, because it goes with this, where people are having a hard time getting still. And I'll say, it doesn't matter if you meditate, if you sit, let's say you sit for 20 minutes and all you have are 2 seconds of like, I felt it. That's wonderful. That might be what happens, but that's a very normal and realistic and beneficial thing to happen. It does not have to be the full 20 minutes. Most people, you could be a Buddhist monk and that's probably still tough. So it's like, a way to drop in that's really helpful is to literally engage with the senses, right? So it's like, your eyes are probably closed. So what am I seeing? The inside eyelid. What am I hearing? What am I smelling? What am I tasting? What am I feeling? And like you said, with nature, and this is, I mean, I have a whole thing about people wearing headphones out in the world in general, because it's not safe. But you just like literally cutting off one of your senses. You're like, hello, I can't tell what's happening around me. But I'm definitely in nature. The art of noticing is it, and I'm sure you've seen, like, I've met so many people who will start to do that and they're just, their lives transform because they are just going on a walk. It's a walking meditation. You just go on a walk. It doesn't need to be climb a mountain. It doesn't need to be, I ran or I walked for a certain period of time because it was my 10,000 steps or whatever. It doesn't have to have anything on it except that you're just walking. And you're just noticing. You're noticing the bugs. You're noticing a leaf. You're just noticing things, and it shifts you. Like I usually notice about 45 minutes in, if I'm like really tight, like just congested with all the energies and all the thoughts and all those things. About 45 minutes for me, if I'm really, really like not aligned, that's all of a sudden it's like I've been filled up with the nature vibes, you know, the forest bathing. I took a bath, I'm done. And I'm like, I feel so different now. And that's different for everybody. I've just happened to notice for me personally, that's about that.
What I tell people, like when they're beginning the practices of journaling and they don't know, right, where to go, it's like, well, first put what the weather's like. And then also if you are someone who follows the planetary days of the week, then like also put like what planetary day it is or even planetary hour. Because if you are someone that follows things astrologically, that can also kind of tune you into the energies that are going on in our universe, as above, so below, right? And then maybe be like, oh, I've been feeling this and I didn't even tune into what that energy is. And that will be one thing to kind of think about. And then the next thing, it's like, well, what is the pressing issue that's right here lingering in my mind? That's what I'm going to brain dump about. So that's one thing. And then you just start to brain dump about that. And then when it comes to the meditation, it's like, there is no expectation that you're going to do 20-minute meditation, you know, in the beginning, especially if you are new to your practice, right? So set a timer in the beginning for the first week for a minute, right? Just a timer for 1 minute to just breathe and just focus on inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, and that's it for the first minute. And start to go up until 5 minutes after the first week. And then you have that timer so that you're not constantly looking at your phone, doing things like that, right? And then as you start to progress into your meditation practice, maybe you will lead up to 20 minutes. 20 minutes is usually where we're hoping to get to at some point, right? But if you can move to 1 minute to then 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, right? That is a movement into your meditation practice and a beginning of that awareness and understanding. And then when you were talking about the senses, that's the centering piece, right? The centering piece is we're bringing our senses into the attunement of the space in which we're actually in, because a lot of times we're up here so much. So in that centering, okay, what can I see? I'm going to try to look out for color. What's one green, where are all the greens that I can see, and spotting how many greens I can see. What am I smelling right now? What am I hearing right now? Right. And then that's the centering aspect where we start to bring things inward, and then we start to ground. When we start to ground, okay, can I feel my breath moving through my body? How does my body feel? Am I going to move my energy because my energy feels really restless right now and I need to get some of that excess energy out? Or can I come to a place of stillness where I do close my eyes, right? Because now I feel safe enough to do that. And then I can just then come into a place of listening, right? And so there are stages of how we move into this place of meditation, how we move and shift into a place of release. But it usually begins with our centering first, centering of our senses. And then we get into a place where we can ground and we can begin to feel that shift. And yeah, when we're walking, what are the different trees that you can notice on your path? How does the ground change between flatland to rocky to mossy to wildlife, wildflowers all over? What can you just envision? And then you start to immerse yourself into the experience as you're naturally living it. And so often, I think in our external world, it's more about control, right? Mm-hmm. And then in that moment of that meditation and that path, we're letting go of the control. Mm-hmm. And then we start to feel that shift, and we start to feel that release, and we start to feel that settling. And I just love it so much.
I couldn't more strongly advocate for people going on walks. And I moved to Colorado so I could be near mountains. And I'll say that my most spiritually connected nature walks, at least up until this point, we're getting to know areas of land. If you find a piece of land, right, it doesn't matter. You don't need to live in Colorado. I grew up in Westchester. I lived there until I was 40. And there was, as you know, I always would I'd be like, come join me at this park. There was one park and it was 4 or 5 fields or something. It wasn't very big, but I had gone to nature, camps or whatever when I was little. So I knew the land, and it didn't get really populated like some of the other parks in the area that were getting really popular. So it's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And during the hardest times of my life, which lasted a decade or so, it was, I would just go walk the land. And I started it just because literally out of desperation of just needing a space to be where I could just, it was just, if you ever drive somewhere in silence because everything's so loud, they make jokes about it. You're just I'm just, you already have too much sound happening. So if you're feeling like that and you go into nature, and that's one of the most healing ways to let that channel through and to recalibrate yourself. And I started going there because I was kind of only going to that land when the weather was nice. And then I sort of just made, I don't even know if it was a commitment. It's hard to remember. I think things were just so shitty that I was like, oh, it's raining. Oh, it's snowing. Oh, it's just terrible out. I don't care. I need to be outside. So I would just go and I would walk the land, and I would walk the land there weren't a ton of paths. It was, like I said, it was pretty small. But I started practicing listening to my intuition that way. And this land really has been my church in so many, specifically this plot of land, because I would walk and I would just ask, show me where to go, show me where to walk on this path. And when I listened to where to go, and it would be random, it'd be to go down this little path here or that little path. I was like, okay. And then I would find, a giant eagle feather, or I would find antlers, or I would find things, or I would run into the owl not the one that attacked me, but sorry, lady. She was like, what do you want? But I would run into, other owls or foxes or deer or whatever. And it was learning how to communicate and listen and then show gratitude and then have that alignment. And I would bring like bird seed sometimes and leave it some places, as an offering, as a thank you, or leave some flowers somewhere. And so if anybody's feeling like, oh, I want to do that, but there's not like a great place for me to do it because I don't live near the most beautiful, whatever. And this is beautiful, super beautiful. But I'm saying it doesn't have to be. It can be just an area that you can get to know through the seasons, even. So if you're able to just walk there, at least a little bit during the winter, a little bit during weird weather that you're not a fan of, the things that you will notice that are different, and the things that you'll see, you're like, oh my God, I remember when that plant was dead last winter, and look at it growing now. There's so many things to be able to glean and to absorb from that. And I just couldn't possibly more highly advocate for that. And also you're saying with the meditation, I love the idea of like starting like that because it's hard. People have such a thing around it. And the other thing I suggest too is who's that?
Sorry, we got interrupted. Hold on.
Okay.
My cats are now here, and Max came in. And
hi, Max.
You want to come and say hello?
Yeah.
Come on here and say hello. Come on. Come here. And say hi.
Hi. Oh my God, you're so big.
And then here's Moose. Moose.
Oh, Moose.
Moose is coming. And then this is Oliver.
Oh my God, Oliver. Yes, I love it. Hi, everybody.
Here's Oliver.
Oh, hi.
Everyone just decided to come and say hello. So.
I love it. Listen, that's how I like it. Maynard's sleeping over there, but yeah. Oh my God. Hello, everybody. Hi, Max.
He can't hear you because I have the headphones.
Oh.
And you want to say hello to Greta? Say hi, Greta.
Hi. He's like, nah. With the meditations, I think what's really helpful too is knowing, like for people, if they're listening and they're like, I don't know about that. There are so many guided meditations that literally, my sister actually, she's doing an amazing job on her YouTube channel where she has like 2-minute guided meditations.
Love that. Yeah.
Or like 5. I love Tara Brach as well. She usually has like 18 to 20 minute, but if you find like there are so many guided meditations out there that will help people, like if you're listening and you're like, I'm curious, but just try and see, because it'll walk you through enough to just kind of help you get a sense of like, okay, I can feel my nervous system shifting. Now Franklin's waking up.
Yeah.
There's
a free app. Yeah, there's a free app called Insight Timer also that people can just download, and they have a plethora of free meditations on there all the time too. And that's great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think like knowing that there's ways to access it, especially like we said, if you're just starting on this path and you're like, I just feel like pure chaos right now, or if you're just like, I kind of dropped off, which is fine. It happens to all of us, like part of the cycle. There's just it. I think if you drop off your path, it's a nice way to get to know it again in a new way, is how I feel. Like I'll get bored of what I'm doing and I'll drop off, and then I'll be like, oh my God, I used to love doing whatever. And then I'll find something new, and then it reinvigorates, like the journal. I'm like, oh, I have a great cute journal. I know how I want to do it now. It's different. I love it. And it becomes a new chapter, basically.
Absolutely.
I wanted to just shift a little bit to more of the side of things of your, as we were talking earlier, like something that I find so beautiful about you that I really want to share with everybody. And I'm obviously going to have you on more because we could talk for a long time. Yeah. But the practice of your commitment to your vision, kind of no matter what external factors are going on, you have, so even if you have to shift and change things, you have this commitment to your vision and to yourself and to your heart in a way that is very unusual for most people. So like, I don't know if you realize how special that is. I'm going to tell you, it's very special. Okay. It's very special. I've only met a few people who are like that, especially people who are younger. Like it's something I feel that I've seen more in people who have lived a long time and just kind of have like an understanding of the cycles of life. It'll happen. This is what's going to happen, not this is what's going to happen, but like everything will kind of sort itself out, and since I've known you, you've had a bunch of things come up where you had to like it's like I always use the example of the sailboat. So you're on a sailboat, you're going that way, but like you may have to go around that. You have to just shift your sails. So you got to like, whoop, go over here for a minute. And you've always been so good at that. And I just kind of wanted you to speak on it a little bit because it is something that's really special. Like were you always like that? Did you find a time where you went, okay, this is the vision that I have, especially with Prana? Because Prana is more than your shop. Prana is just like what the container that you've created. It's a whole vibe. It's not like a place.
She's an entity all in herself.
She's an entity.
Sometimes I feel like all in herself sometimes. And I'm kind of just I'm the groundskeeper of Prana in some way.
The steward. Yeah.
Yes, the steward of Prana.
Yeah.
To be honest, I feel like I really don't know where it came from. It could just be something that was instilled in me, and the idea of, working always for what you want. I was very lucky that my mother, she was always the individual that was like, you can do whatever it is that you want to do when you put your mind to it. And so I'm very grateful for that, because she did give me that space to know that if we put our minds to and our belief in something and we work towards that something, we have the power and capacity within ourselves to create that. And so for her, I'm very grateful because she did instill that in me. I think also too, there is this level within me that says, I'm a visionary. That could be the Aquarius side of me. And then also I'm a Pisces rising. So it's all about, this dream state and cultivating something that's outside of the regular norm. And I think for me, it was more of like, what feels right in my heart, right? I want to live a life where I can say at the end of the day, I follow the pursuit of my own happiness, right? I follow the pursuit of what my joy is, no matter how much the challenge may have been in that pursuit. But sometimes challenges, we look at it like it's an overwhelming thing and a thing that we're like, oh, I don't want to do it. And like, if it's too much of a challenge, then I'm going to like let go of this idea and this dream and F it, right? And for me, it's more like, yes, but there's a challenge because there's always a sacrifice, right? There's a level of sacrifice that we need to put into whatever container it is that we're looking to fill up, right? And I'm like, I am so grateful that the challenges that I have are expressions of hard work and sacrifice that I need to create the life that I want to lead. And maybe that's a part of the drive, is like this sacrifice that I'm doing right now, these challenges that I'm encountering, they're all to create the space of the thing that I ultimately want for my life. And there might be wrenches that are thrown into that, but I look at those wrenches as opportunities of growth, right? Because that's really what they are. They're lessons for us. They're lessons of growth. They're opportunities for us to understand, where is my weakness in this moment in time? What is the thing that I need to learn about myself here in this challenge, right? Because I'm a very firm believer that everything that the universe throws at us, it's meant for a reason or a purpose. And usually for that purpose is something to teach us for ourselves, and then also how we show up, not only for self, but then also for others, right? How am I growing here for my own personal self and container and sovereignty, but then also the container that I'm creating out there into the world? And so I feel like I look at those things and I'm like, this is just giving me more leverage, I guess you could say, to continue that pursuit, right? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if
I love that.
Just completely authentic or what, or, I feel like we all have the capacity and the ability to do that. It's just this understanding of like, yeah, it does require a level of sacrifice. It requires a level of commitment. It also requires a level of continuing to look back on and continuing to reassess, right? Is this really where I want to go? What about this is that I'm not liking? And then if there are things about this that, yes, I do like and bring me joy, then let's try to, feed on that and make that bigger? And how is it that there are things in there that no longer fit into this container? Well, how can I filter out those things that no longer fit into that container and then reinforce the container into something that I do want it to look like, and something that is fully foundational and structured in a way that does feel good for me, right? Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. I think I think, you're saying you have one thing that's really notable is that you are looking at challenges as part of the path, which I think is something that could be modeled for our society in general. I think a lot of times people see the challenge comes up and it's like, and I do think I've talked about this with a couple of people where sometimes we do have to go, okay, is this challenge a wall or is it a hurdle?
Yeah.
And you gotta like, but what you're also saying is that you're very mindful of the process. You're staying mindful of your path as you go.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we set a goal, maybe when we're younger, we set this goal. We're as clear as we can be at that time. We start going that way. Things start happening. And if you're not staying present with your goal, you might not have realized how it's shifted so that the universe and God, whatever's trying to like, hey, did you check this? Do you still want to do it this way? And sometimes those things come up where we have to stop and go, is this still the way that I want to go? Is this still the path? Is it part of the path, or is it like on the way, so being mindful of that and allowing yourself to have the ability to reflect on what it is you actually want to still do. Yeah. So I'm hearing that so much too. Yeah. I mean, you're very mindful with your practice and committed to it. And I think that is a testament to the way that you look at things, right? Like to be able to stay present as life changes and reevaluate goals, because just because we make a goal or have a dream in our heart and all of those things, if you find yourself wanting to do it differently or not do it at all, but like those, sometimes I think it helps to hear somebody say like, hey, you actually don't have to do that thing anymore. You could do it differently if you want, and you're allowed to change your mind. Now, yes, if you're changing your mind like every 3 months, maybe you want to like
you change your underwear. Yeah. No.
You might want to like ground in a little bit more than that and give it more of a chance to grow. But, sometimes you have a couple changes and then you settle on the thing that you're like, all right, this is the goal. But it takes that mindfulness and reflection. And then, so I know you got to get going, and just real quick, and then I'll have you back on. Maybe we'll talk more specifically about like plants in general, because I would love to talk about it. But I did want to know if somebody is feeling like called to discover herbs. Like I usually tell people the plant will call to you, and somebody was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, for me, I love ashwagandha, and I always tell how I thought it was the funniest name. I kept hearing it, and it made me giggle. I was like, "That's such a silly name. I like it." I want to learn about it. And then it ended up being the plant that like keeps me healthy. It's the plant like I will die on that hill. And that was how it called to me. I tend to see things through humor, and it's sort of like things will be highlighted. And I learned that if I just look at just investigate it more, I don't necessarily need to go out and get everything about it. But if there's a plant that or a nutrient or something that I keep thinking about and it keeps popping up and I keep hearing it somewhere, that's like a door to enter from there. Yeah. And I'm curious how you like would suggest if somebody is feeling called to work with plants more, where would be a good place to start?
Yeah. I think that is a good place to start. It's like, where are they hearing signs of it? Or is it being mentioned constantly to them? Are they seeing pictures of it? Is it something that's random coming up in a song or something like that? I think sometimes we get clues in some way, somehow in that way. But I think also times too, when we stop thinking that it's an entity that's completely separate, or a practice is completely separate, and something that can be combined with just an everyday thing that we do, which is eating food. I think that is a very natural way to come about it. It's like, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm going to get myself a box of tea to have, right? And then I look at the ingredients and what herbs are a part of this, and I'm going to incorporate this tea into my daily practice. And then I look at those ingredients of those herbs that are a part of that, and then start to research them. Like, what does this do for me? Like, how can I take it deeper? Or, at certain times of the year, maybe there's fresh dandelion that you could start to work with, and you can use that into your everyday food. And well, what does dandelion have to offer? And you start to like go deeper into your practice. I think that happens with like so much for so many different things though, too. I think that again, there's been this disconnection, and we've been so disconnected from even what we're getting at the grocery store and what food we're getting, versus when we start to think about practices like herbalism and working with the plants and our wellness, it's more about starting to create this connection with that, right? Connecting with our food, connecting from where it comes from, how is it actually being sourced, all of those things. And then we start to look deeper as like, well, what does this actually offer me, right? How can I use this in a medicinal way? How can I use this in a way that is going to be nourishing for my body? Is it nourishing for my body? Is my body seeking it out? Am I craving it, right? Mm-hmm. And then how can I also use it in spiritual practices and forms like that? So I think when we start to change the mindset of like, this is a completely separate practice, and we start to say, this is a practice that is a part of the natural things that I do every day, it becomes less daunting and less foreign. So
I love that so much. That was the reason I did nutrition and herbalism, because it was like one or the other. And I was like, they're kind of together.
Kind of one and the same. Yeah, they are.
And a lot of medicinal plants like turmeric, for instance, like, yes, do they use it at 1,000 milligrams for, helping with chemotherapy? Yes. But really, like, the benefits of it in terms of your everyday benefits are if you have it in a food amount. Mm-hmm. When you kick it up to 1,000 milligrams and you start to alter other things, and it's not bad. It's just like, it's just doing a different thing, and like in your detox pathways. So it's so interesting that when we actually just have these herbs and plants in our food, like you said, it just becomes a part of things. You get to know it, and it is subtle, but it's also incredibly powerful, especially when it's cumulative. Then it's not subtle, but it is life-changing.
Absolutely, because we're putting it in our culinary, everyday like recipes, but then that's for preventative care. And then we start to investigate, and we're like, oh yes, if I amp it up to this amount and there's this problem happening, then it'll support me with this particular issue. But in me being able to use it in my everyday recipes, I'm supporting my body system in that preventative care aspect. And so, if you can't get to it from one place, we can at least get to it from here, where it doesn't feel as overwhelming and it doesn't feel as foreign to us when we get to that point of like, oh, now I do need to use turmeric in 1,000 milligrams. Now, but I know what it is, right? I know what it can do. I know what the essence of it actually is for. And then I can use it, and it doesn't feel like this completely foreign thing that I'm putting into my system.
Right.
And we're continuing to build that symbiotic relationship with the plants and all of that. So, yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you still making elderberry syrup?
I am. Be well syrup. Yeah.
Yes.
That is still, yeah.
Yes.
Still, that is something that I will probably make forever. It is an elixir that I've made for my family now for 15 years, almost. No, 12 years, because it was when Jacque was 3. I've been making it for the past 12 to 13 years, and it's something that we still take today, every day almost. And as the system moves, but it's elderberries, astragalus, autoimmunomodulators, which help produce more white blood cells into our body to be able to combat a lot of those viral infections that we get, especially during this time of the year. So, yeah, and then there are a lot of other spices and stuff in there, and good stuff. Yeah.
Can people get it on the website?
Yep, they can get it on the website. It's Be Well Syrup, and then there's a lot of other things that they can go
I always
to.
Recommend your Be Well Syrup over. Yeah, it is a miracle. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we got to do this. I love you so much.
I love you so much.
Love you so much.
Appreciate you. And I feel like we need another 2 hours, as always.
I know. We'll do more. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. Yes. Yeah.